everyone. Well, it's 1 o'clock, so I think we'll honor everybody's time and go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Amber Johnson. I am the Chief Communications Officer at the Center for Values-Driven Leadership and a student in the PhD program. And it's my pleasure to join you on this call today to introduce you to the program. We have a great group of callers on the line, and including a current student, a graduate of the program, and the director and lead faculty member, Jim Ludema. So we'll have a great time today introducing you to the program and answering all of your questions. As we get started here, let me just give you some updates. First of all, as you've noticed, we're using this webinar software system, and it would help me out tremendously if you would keep yourself muted throughout the call. This means that we don't hear your background noise if somebody stops by your office. And then it also lets us just have a really clear line so that we can hear everything the panelists are saying. Just because you're muted, though, doesn't mean we can't communicate, and the best way to do that is going to be using the chat function that's in the GoToMeeting control panel. So if you'll take a second and look at that now, you'll see that there's a chat function there. You can just turn that little arrow down and you'll find a box that will let you choose to send a message directly to me, Amber Johnson, the organizer, and then I will be able to use those messages and to guide the question and answer session here in a little bit. So that's a great place to ask any questions that you have about the program, and I'll make sure that they get answered. I also want to let you know that often when we're using this software, there's a second or two delay from the time that we think we've advanced a PowerPoint slide and the time it actually happens. So don't be alarmed by that. We'll try to keep things moving as we go. We're also recording this so that if there's someone you want to share it with after the end of this session, you'll be able to have access to that video to share with others. Now I want to just introduce you to the agenda that we're covering for today. In just a minute, I'll introduce you to Jim Ludema, the director of the program, and he'll give you an introduction to the panelists and then spend some time introducing you to the doctoral program in the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. And then I'll invite each of our panelists to share a little bit about their experiences with the program, and you can hear a little more of what they've experienced and how it's impacted their careers and their own interests. And then we'll spend the bulk of our time in Q&A, just making sure that we get all of your questions answered. And again, you can send those questions to me using the chat function of the GoToMeeting control panel. And you can just choose Amber Johnson and type your message in and send it directly to me, and I'll make sure that it gets asked in about 15-20 minutes when we begin that part of the agenda. In a minute, I'm going to introduce Jim Ludema, the director of our program. But before I do, I want to share an exciting bit of news. If you've been on our website recently, you may already be aware of this. But we're delighted to announce that HR.com has named our program the #1 PhD program in leadership for the second year in a row. We made the list for the first time in 2016, took first place in 2017, and about a month ago received word that we are the first place winners again in 2018. So we're exceptionally proud of that. We think it represents a lot of hard work on the part of our students and our faculty, and we're excited that you're here today to learn a little more about the program. Now it's my job to introduce Jim Ludema. He's the director and co-founder of the Center for Values-Driven Leadership and a professor of global leadership. He's also a recognized expert in the topic of workplace culture. Jim earned his PhD from Case Western Reserve University and has been teaching executive students at Benedictine for the last 15 years. He's a leader in the study of appreciative inquiry, which is a leadership and organizational change model I'm sure you'll hear a little bit about today. And he's the author of the Appreciative Inquiry Summit, a definitive text on the topic, as well as many journal and book chapters and articles, including one that was recently named #1 in Advances in Global Leadership. So let me turn it over to you, Jim, to introduce the program.
Great. Thank you, Amber. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this online open house today. I'd like to start by introducing the rest of our team at the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. And as you can see on the slide, there are 3 core faculty members in addition to me, none of which are on the call today. They are Marie DiVirgilio, Gus Gustafson, and Mike Manning. And there's one core staff member on the call, and that's Amber Johnson, whom you've already met, and I'm sure you have discovered she is exceptional. She's our Chief Communications Officer and a Senior Research Associate, and is in charge of all of our marketing and communications and recruiting and thought leadership dissemination and things like that. As she mentioned, she's also a student in our PhD program, a member of Cohort 4, which means she has just finished her first year of coursework. So she has some really good insight into the program as an insider as well. And today, Amber will be leading the webinar and moderating our Q&A session. Our panelists for today, excuse me, are Dr. Denise Brown and Brett Hines. And Denise hails from Cincinnati and is an entrepreneur and healthcare executive. She founded the Step of Faith Wellness Center in Cincinnati and currently works as the Director of Urgent Care and Primary Care Ambulatory Operations for the Christ Hospital, also in Cincinnati. There she has responsibility for 15 different departments. Denise is a former executive with Health Links Transitional Leadership, where she served in senior roles such as Chief Nursing Officer for hospitals across the country in need of executive level strategic leadership. In terms of education, Denise is a registered nurse and also holds an MBA from Thomas More College. And she earned her PhD in values-driven leadership in 2014 as a member of our first cohort. Her dissertation research focused on healthcare leaders and how they can build psychological resilience through biofeedback and self-regulation of their heart rate using the HeartMath method. It's a great piece of work and you ought to read it. Brett is joining us today from the Detroit area, where he is the Chief Engineer of Ford Motor Company's Electrified Powertrain System Engineering. In this role, Brett is responsible for Ford's global hybrid and battery electric vehicles, powertrain system engineering, control system engineering, and vehicle drivability. Brett has had a 27-year career with Ford, serving in the US and the UK and leading global teams, which contributes to his dissertation interest in global leadership. Brett holds a BS in mechanical engineering from Lawrence Tech University, an MS in engineering from an MS in engineering management from Oakland University. And along with Amber, Brett is a member of our fourth cohort, so he too has just finished his first year of coursework. So thank you, Denise, and thank you, Brett, for joining us today. Now, by way of introduction to the Center for Values-Driven Leadership, as you can see on the slide, we exist to help values-driven leaders develop themselves and others, build flourishing companies, and transform business and society. For us, values-driven leadership is all about doing business the right way. It's about being clear and confident about your own core values and building values-based organizational cultures that promote flourishing at every level. And we're talking about values like honesty and integrity, care and compassion, excellence and accountability, and meaning, purpose, and contribution to the greater good. And so at a fundamental level, our purpose is to help change the way business is done by studying values-driven companies, telling their stories, and developing their leaders. That's what we're all about. Practically speaking, we focus on three things: research, education, and practice. On the research side, we're engaged in a number of different projects, but one of the most exciting is our Return on Values project, in which we're partnering with the Small Giants community, who are a bunch of values-driven entrepreneurs, and the Center for Positive Organizations at the University of Michigan to study the link between organizational culture and profit. And we're doing that in two ways. We're conducting longitudinal survey research with a bunch of companies to measure various aspects of their culture on the one hand, and their top and bottom line growth on the other hand, to see what the correlations are between the two, culture and profit. And then we're doing deep dive case studies with about 30 of these companies that are exemplars of this better way of doing business to find out how they do it. How do they hire and fire? How do they attract top talent? How do they develop people, recognize and reward, innovate and grow, manage their capital, and so on? Essentially, we're trying to unpack the DNA of great values-driven companies. On the education side, we have the PhD DBA program, and we will be launching an outstanding new master's program in values-driven leadership in September. We're very excited about that. In terms of practice, we offer consulting services and customized executive education programs to companies, and we also offer 2 senior executive roundtables each year where we open our doors and invite about 100 or so leaders from the business community to come and spend a Friday afternoon with our faculty and doctoral students, along with a couple of leadership gurus that we bring in from out of town to explore hot topics of interest like emotional intelligence or leading change, leading teams, working with millennials, or building positive organizational cultures. As it relates specifically to the doctoral program that you are interested in, I'd like to make 5 points. The first is that the program is for senior leaders like Denise and Brett who want to change the world through business. And this is based on the idea that business is currently the most powerful institution on the planet and the institution with the greatest potential to influence positive change. And so we're looking for people who share this conviction and want to be a part of a learning community that'll help them advance their life and their careers in this direction, all from a values-driven perspective. Second, it's a program for people who just love to learn. And Denise and Brett will tell you more about that in a minute. But it is different from any other doctoral program out there, whether it's a traditional doctoral program or an executive doctoral program or an online doctoral program. Ours is designed to help you grow as a leader, as a scholar, and as a person. And we provide a safe and inviting space in which you can find your edges and push your edges and open yourself to both personal and professional transformation. And what we found is that the students who thrive most in our program are those who do open themselves to the world of ideas. They jump in with both feet. They explore as many theories and models and perspectives and experiences as possible, and then engage in deep and meaningful learning with the others in the room. Third, it's a scholar practitioner program, and that means that the faculty and visiting scholars bring their best, most cutting-edge ideas into the classroom. And students like Denise and Brett do the same. And then together we build new theory, we do new research, and we test them in the world of practice. So in this program, you're not just a consumer of knowledge the way you would be in an undergrad or a master's program. You become a creator of new knowledge. Someone who creates new ideas, new models, new approaches that you and others can apply in your organizations and also write up and publish to advance the field. Fourth, the program is a student-centric program tailored to the demands of executives working full-time. It's designed to be completed in 3 years compared to 5 to 7 years for most doctoral programs. To accommodate those who commute in from out of town, classes are held once a month on weekends, plus an annual 8-day intensive so that you can be in class on the weekend and then still put in a full week of work. You can select from one of 2 tracks, a more research-focused PhD degree or a more practice-oriented DBA degree. All of the coursework is scheduled to help you make progress on your dissertation beginning day one in the program. And you can focus your dissertation on pretty much any topic you want within the fields of leadership, sustainability, and strategic change, broadly defined. You'll also get an unusually high level of faculty, staff, alumni, and fellow student support in the program, because we're a community of learners fully committed to your success once we invite you into the program. And you get to do all of this in our brand new state-of-the-art building, the Goodwin Hall of Business. The fifth point I want to make is that we work hard to make the program a truly global learning community. We bring in as much diversity into the student cohorts as possible, and much of the teaching in the program is done by visiting scholars who come from leading universities around the country and around the globe. We also engage in global exchanges in which students and faculty travel to different parts of the world, such as Belgium, Dubai, France, India, Ireland, Italy, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Spain, the UK, to engage in high-quality learning exchanges with top scholars and executives from other countries and cultures. So in summary, in the PhD DBA program, we're looking for senior leaders who love to learn, grow, and develop, and who want to change the world through a values-driven approach to business. And we hope that you are one of those leaders. I want to point out a couple of additional features of the program that are new for Cohort 5, which is the cohort you would be applying into. The first is that in the past, we have held 2 leadership lecture series weekends each year. Going forward, we'll host one of these weekends each year and use the other lecture series weekend for faculty and students to attend the leading conferences in our field. That is the Academy of Management Conference and the International Leadership Association Conference. In year 1, you'll attend the Academy of Management Conference in August, and in year 2, you'll attend the International Leadership Association Conference in October. And both of these conferences are just great opportunities to meet with leading thinkers in the field, to explore cutting-edge research topics that you're passionate about, and to present your own research and case studies at the conferences. And we've made this change to the curriculum after observing that students who attend these conferences learn more, advance more rapidly in their understanding of the field, make valuable connections with leading scholars in their areas of interest, and make better, faster progress on their dissertation. And so we want to make it a requirement for everybody in the program. In addition to that, traveling to these conferences as a cohort is a lot of fun, so we're really looking forward to it. Also in Cohort 5, we will connect you with one of the world's best writing coaches. Her name is Joanna Beth Tweedy, and she will help you get comfortable with academic writing. We know that a lot of successful practitioners like yourself are a bit nervous about their ability to write at the PhD or DBA level. And there's nobody better than Joanna Beth to help you find your groove in that regard, because she is an exceptional writer herself and also a graduate of our Cohort 1. So she knows how to help tailor your writing to our program. Finally, we provide regular check-ins with faculty, particularly early on in the program, to help you make the transition to becoming a scholar practitioner and to give you a regular forum for discussing your ideas and dissertation interests. So that's about it for me, and now I want to give you a little more perspective on the program by turning it over to our panelists for their perspective. first Denise and then Brett. So Denise, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ludema, and thank you to everyone that's on the line. As it was reflected, I had the pleasure of being a graduate from Cohort 1, and I must say that the experience was so very transformational for me as a leader, which is part of the design of the program. And I have been able to do some pretty significant things with the leadership style that I have with my team. And I am just so grateful to be able to share some of that with you. As I was reflecting on the experience that I had at the CVDL, I have to really focus and emphasize their unique ability to connect you with your values and to help you really clearly understand the values that you have personally. We had some great experiential learning opportunities where we worked in groups with just exceptional leaders from across the globe, literally. And spending that time with them in the cohort model for 2 years was truly, it gave me the ability to experience how you can build on collective knowledge. And some of the discussions that we had and the breakout sessions and the projects we worked on with just pretty important and very, very key members that were on the team. As I reflected on how the support that I received, I have to first say that the faculty and the strength and exceptionalism of the faculty is next to none. And it was important to me coming into this program that I could be successful with my dissertation. And what I noticed right up front through the dissertation process is that the faculty was laser focused. And when I say that, I mean that they were laser focused on their primary goal, which aligned with mine, and that was that I would be successful with my dissertation. So it was very important to me to see how they supported the advancement of my candidacy status so that I was actually not only just prepared, but qualified to complete my dissertation, which I was able to do in the 3-year period. That was really important to me, and it has really helped me to continue to connect with them as I'm even in the field. But what I've seen is that my leadership through this process has just grown magnificently. And even, as the program discusses, they want to develop you as a leader, help connect you with your values, which they do very, very effectively, and then give you the ability, the tools, the models to then to transform the organization that you're working with, and then take that even to a global level. So there was a lot of discussion and experiential learning around values, around vision, and around sustainability. And I've used all of those things from the minute I experienced my first class there and my first cohort weekend. It truly was transformational, but the learnings and again, the information that I gained from that collective knowledge from being with thought leaders from across the globe and senior executives that bring their knowledge and their expertise to our discussions, it really helped to make me a better leader, a more rounded leader. And I think the last thing that I want to focus on and emphasize is through that dissertation process, it really helped me to be able to research the phenomenology that I was interested in. And so what the faculty do in a very strategic manner through the curriculum is help you go from a very broad and macro lens, if you will, down to a very focused and a very targeted lens, helping to direct you to identify what it is that you want to research. And they help you be successful by bringing together a prescription, if you will, so that when you begin to write qualification paper number 1, for instance, which exposed me to the various types of research that were out there, the different journals that were there, to experience different types of writing. It showed me and gave me some wonderful examples of the writing style that fit best for me. And then they expound on that with Qual 2, And what that helps you do is then begin to drill into that area or that body of knowledge that you're interested in. And in doing so, the research that's required for you to meet the outcomes of that paper that really helped me to be literally writing one of the chapters of my dissertation. So the program overall is designed in an exceptional way to make sure that you are successful with your dissertation, prepare you for that, to also transform you as an individual, give you the tools, the models, and the experience then to take that body of collective knowledge that you have received into your areas and into your industries. And so I'm very, very grateful for the experience that I had at the CVDL.
Great, thank you very much, Denise. And I just got to say, I love that picture of you up on the screen. You look like a very proud graduate. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words and your insights. And now let me turn it over to Brett. Brett?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, Amber asked me to kind of give you some comments about somebody that's currently in the program and working at the same time. So I also benefited greatly from the program. I mean, I benefited probably from the very first class. One of the exciting things is that, you know, you kind of learn something on, you know, you say you learn something on the weekend and then you roll right into work on Monday morning and you kind of start playing with the concepts a little bit at work. You start changing the way you do business a little bit. One of the first things I adopted was there was a course we took on teamwork and how teams work and the challenge that teams face when they first get into a room and they're trying to understand how they fit and what they do. And so one of the best things you can do as a leader is when you get there, you can help define their role. Right from the very beginning, you define their role. And that kind of lets people relax. You know, why am I here? What am I doing? You get those questions out of the way and let people kind of start finding the way and you can get right to the task. So it was something that they talked about over the weekend during coursework. And then Monday morning, the very first meeting I went to, I started applying that. Another really exciting thing for me is one of the things to learn about was called, you know, strength-based leadership and strength-based decision making. And it's the idea of you really take what your strengths are as a leader, as an individual, and you lean into those, you focus with those, you make decisions based on those kinds of elements. And that's something that's slowly been weaving into my decision-making process. I recently changed jobs based on that as a guiding principle. I've been coaching my own people that work for me to kind of use their strengths and how do we find their strengths and helping them think along those same manners. And I just had a guy today, Tom, as we were going over it, and he told me, he says, boy, I've never actually thought about work like this before. So he wanted to take that away and go back with it. So, you know, the message is, I mean, immediately you can start having an impact. It's not something you wait 2 years or 3 years with. You immediately start applying things. As we talked about, I'm a lifelong learner, and I absolutely love being with the program. You get there and you think of all the knowledge you get over the course of the weekend. It's just absolutely amazing. We just completed a course on sustainability over this last weekend, and the concepts that came together and the background and things like that was really refreshing for me. It was probably, this last weekend was probably the best class with one of the best teachers we had in the program. And it stuck with me. I have to drive 5 hours back home, but all 5 hours back home, I'm thinking about, you know, how do I get this back into my job and how am I going to use this in my, you know, for the rest of my work week and, you know, for the years going forward. So it's really exciting. A little bit more about on the work side. So, you know, as you get into it, they're not giving away the degree. You've got to actually earn it. You've got to work for it. So I had to fit it into my schedule. I probably commit about 2 hours a night. After work closes, I kind of commit 2 hours to kind of either reading or writing or just going over the concepts from class. And then usually I have to put in about 8 hours on the weekend, on an off weekend, to try and get the coursework or the reading or the papers written. So there is a commitment there. I found that I have to kind of set aside dedicated time to make that happen. I know that Amber, she must be a morning person because she thinks she gets up and her coursework is all done first thing in the morning. So the important thing is you really got to find that time in your life. You've got to carve away a little bit of work. You've got to carve away a little bit of the family life, and you've got to wedge this time in for yourself. And it's an investment in your future, and I think it's already paying off for me in how I lead personally and the knowledge that I've acquired, and I've even had a couple of people tell me they can already see a little bit of a difference in how I'm just different than the other managers in the organization. So I'll turn it back over to Amber and Jim with that.
Great, Brett. Thank you very much. And Amber, why don't I turn it over to you to lead the Q&A session?
All right. Well, thank you guys for getting us started there. We do have about 20 minutes here reserved for questions, and I've received a few and have a lot of things we can talk about, but I want to make sure that I get the questions answered from the people that are on the phone. So again, you can use that chat box on the GoToMeeting control panel to send me a message. Just drop me a note, and I will then ask your question and direct it to Denise or Brett or Jim. Jim, to get us started, you mentioned just briefly that you can choose one of two degrees, the PhD degree or the DBA degree. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what I said is that the PhD degree is a more research-focused degree, and what that means is that you use traditional research methods, quantitative and qualitative methods, to do original research, and when you do your analysis and write it up, you try to contribute to the literature, the body of literature out there. The DBA degree, on the other hand, is a more practice-oriented degree where you still do a dissertation, but what you might do is a change project in your organization or a leadership development project in your organization or in your community, and then you essentially write up a very robust case study about that intervention. So it's more practice oriented, and you don't necessarily have to use the same level of sophistication around the traditional quantitative and qualitative research methods. Whether you're in the PhD degree or the DBA degree, the first 2 years of coursework are the exact same, and you're in the cohort with your fellow cohort members, whether they are PhD or DBA track. It doesn't matter. You take the first 2 years of coursework, the same courses with everybody there. It's in that third year when you're working on the dissertation that you have to choose between the PhD and the DBA degree, whether you want to go into a more research-oriented direction with the PhD degree or a more practice-oriented direction with the DBA degree. Now, when students enroll, they have to choose one or the other track, but that doesn't lock them in. The final decision about which track people want to go into doesn't happen until the end of the second year when students are starting to work on their dissertations.
Terrific. Thank you, Jim. One of our callers asked if we can read dissertations, and absolutely, you can go to the doctorate page of our website and scroll down and you'll find a dissertations and research link. But while we're on the topic of dissertations, Denise, I wondered if you could tell us just maybe 1 minute about the topic of your dissertation.
Absolutely. Pretty long title, but it was Self-Regulation and Heart Rate Variability, Developing Psychological Resilience in Healthcare Leaders. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the program, my background is in registered nursing, and even more so than that in the cardiac area and cardiovascular nursing. And with that, I've been very familiar with various waveforms that we monitor for health and well-being. And so what my research did was expounded off the research from the Institute of Heart Math, where Dr. Roland McCready is the research scientist there, and he was also on my dissertation committee, which was just pretty incredible and amazing. And so what we did is I worked with 2 hospital organizations with their executive leadership team and with their frontline emergency services team, some registered nurses, some physicians, and then with the leadership team, it was the chief nursing officer and the members of her patient care services team at another facility. And what we did is we actually used the technology that is available by the Institute of Heart Math that measures beat-to-beat variability of the heartbeat that is happening, and it associates stress patterns to help you identify when you are at higher levels of stress, but they also give you different tools and techniques to teach you how to manage that stress. And so what I wanted to see is if by teaching these groups, these participants, 25 participants, how to create heart rhythms that are associated with lower stress states, what the impact was on them. And what we found through the research was decreased periods of stress and anxiety, increased energy states where they could rebound much quicker from very stressful situations. They also had higher levels and higher and deeper sleep states. And as we know, resilience is built when you're able to have very, very sound and deep sleep states. So the research was very statistically significant with these organizations. And I did it over, it was about a 6-month period of that final year.
That's tremendous, Denise. Thank you. Fascinating research. Jim, could you maybe speak a little more? Denise's research is in one field, but there are a lot of fields that we cover. And if you could share maybe 2 or 3 other examples. And then a related question, people are asking, when do you choose your dissertation topic and how does that weave into the process?
Yeah, and I'll ask the second question first, and that is, when do you choose your dissertation topic? Students who come into the program, when you apply for the program, we ask you to talk about what you think your dissertation topic might be. And so students are thinking about it, or applicants are thinking about it even before they come into the program. And then we have a number of activities built into the curriculum throughout the course of the first year and the second year that allows students to drill deeper into that dissertation topic. So it's an evolving kind of thing. It's very rare that a person sticks with the same topic the whole way through the program. It may be close and it may be some variant on what they first came in with, but it's rare that it's the exact same topic. And what I mean by activities along the way to help you clarify your dissertation topic is, Denise mentioned there is a qualifying paper in the first year called Qual 1. And that's where you go out and you do a study of the top 15 or so journals in our field of leadership, sustainability, and strategic change. And you go back 3 to 5 years and you say, what are people writing about? What are the hot topics? Who are the hot authors? What are the methodologies that they use? What are the findings that they're finding out there? So that you become very familiar with a broad range of topics. That's what you do in the first year. Then in the second year, you do a second qualifying paper, which is called Qual 2, where you do a deep dive into the topic that you're interested in. So Denise was interested in heart math and resilience and stress. And so she did a deep dive into the literature around heart math, resilience, and stress. And that then became the literature review for her dissertation. And so both that Qual 1 paper and that Qual 2 paper are helping you get clearer on your topic and helping you get started on your dissertation. In addition to that, twice a year, in both the first year and the second year, we have these lecture series weekends. And during those lecture series weekends, we ask students to put together a little PowerPoint presentation, maybe 7 slides, about what your dissertation topic is, how you want to study it, and what you think you might find. And then to present it to the rest of the class and the faculty, and then we give you feedback on it. And that also helps you sort of build, because you may try it out one way the first time, shift it a little bit for the second one, shift it again for the third one, and by the time you get to the end of the second year, you've got a pretty clear picture of your topic. And then also presenting at the conferences that we go to and going to sessions at those conferences to help you get clearer on your topic is another really important piece of the program. For example, we went to Belgium last fall, and Brett went to a bunch of sessions on global leadership and got really turned on by that topic and connected it to his own work and is now thinking of pursuing his dissertation in that direction. So, the program is designed from day one to help you start thinking about your dissertation topic and developing it over time with lots of input from other students, the faculty, our visiting scholars, and then folks at conferences, the leading lights in the field that can help you shape that. And then, of course, when it comes time to form the dissertation committee, one of us at Benedictine, one of the core faculty, myself, Marie, Gus, or Mike will serve as dissertation chair, and then you can bring in other committee members from outside the university, like Denise did. and they can be some of the folks who have come through as visiting scholars, or others that we know of who are just doing world-class work in a particular area, and put them on the committee. So again, it's sort of an evolving process that helps you succeed at the topic you want to succeed at. In terms of other topics, just a couple of examples. We had one guy in Cohort 2, a guy by the name of John Heiser. He's the president and COO of a manufacturing firm called Magnetrol, and he did his dissertation on the role of CEO leadership in driving strategic corporate social responsibility, because their company is very well known for its corporate social responsibility. And he studied his own company and a couple of other companies to see what a CEO can do to drive strategic corporate social responsibility. A very interesting one was in the first cohort, your cohort, Denise, Lee DeReamer, who was a colonel in the U.S. Air Force, but was moving out of the Air Force into the corporate sector. He wasn't sure about what he wanted to do his dissertation on, but through the course of the program, he decided that he wanted to study the nature of midlife introspection. For people who are making a midlife transition like he was making, how do they do it successfully? How do they position themselves for the next phase or stage of their career? And he did a great dissertation where he went out and he interviewed a bunch of people who had gone through successful midlife transitions, and then interviewed their significant others, and did a qualitative dissertation around what are the keys to success for that midlife transition through introspection. And then as part of that, he himself, instead of he was working for Booz Allen Hamilton, the consulting firm, but he decided through his own midlife introspection process to start a new organization, which is called Life Cycles. And it's an organization based in Pennsylvania that works with at-risk youth through cycling and life mentoring. And the organization is booming and thriving now. So he used his dissertation to learn about midlife transitions or midlife introspection, used it on himself, and then started a whole new organization that's making a huge difference in his community. So there's a wide range of things. Another guy, Lee Murphy, in Cohort 1, used the dissertation to initiate and follow through on a change process in his own organization. He's the CEO of a healthcare organization, and he wanted to sort of make a strategic change in the direction of his organization, and he used appreciative inquiry to make that strategic change, and then studied the effects on the people in the organization throughout the process. So it was kind of like an action research project on his own organization. That was a very long answer, but it gives you a flavor on the dissertations.
It does. And again, check out our website. On the doctoral page, there's a link called Dissertations and Research, and you can read titles and actually read most of the dissertations as well if you're interested. Brett, we're going to go from dissertations to something much more practical, and that's just the schedule. Could you just explain how a class weekend works, what hours you're there, and what time in class is like, and then what you're doing between classes?
Yeah, so myself, I travel, so the program's just outside of Chicago, which I'm sure you're well. I'm actually coming from the Detroit area, so I drive in, but several of the people that I'm in class with are flying in. So we've got people flying in from Colorado, New York, Texas, Utah, Mexico. So people fly in from all the day. Usually the people will fly in on a Friday. Class starts at 6:30 Chicago time and runs until 9:30 on Friday night. And then Saturday and Sunday, it runs from 9 until 4. And then after 4 o'clock on Sunday, most people kind of disperse back to wherever they're from. From our schedule is Friday night, usually get in, like a couple of us try and grab dinner beforehand, go to class. We're in class again for the 3 hours. We all have our favorite hotels we stay at in the area, but we'll occasionally, the travelers will tend to grab dinner together, or maybe have, we've done class dinners. A lot of times we do a little bit smaller dinners amongst the class. Class on Saturdays starts from 9, runs until noon. We have a 1-hour lunch, and then from 1 until 4. Pace is usually pretty good. The coursework itself is mixed between teacher. There's a lot of professor-led instruction and discussion. And then it's also, but in conjunction with that, we do group breakout exercises. Sometimes we'll do individual project work during class. We do student-led presentations and discussions also. The nice thing about a program like this is where a topic will be presented, and then there's often a diverse perspective of students and of experience with that particular topic. And that's really what makes the class really powerful, is that you're getting perspectives from myself, who's in the automotive industry, another individual from Boeing, but you also get perspectives from the healthcare, from one gentleman with us is a dentist. You get perspectives from people that are in telecom. And it's really this diverse perspective that lends a lot of depth and color to the class, gives it, brings it forward from a concept into the reality.
That's great. Thank you for giving that detail. Appreciate it. Denise, earlier, a question for you. You mentioned the core faculty that guide you through the dissertation process. One of the unique things about our program is that we work with core faculty who are Benedictine faculty members, but then we also work with what we call distinguished visiting scholars. And I'm wondering if you could explain that model and your experience with it a little.
Absolutely. The faculty there at CVDL, I loved it because you had the ability to connect, and I connected with all of the faculty there because, again, I mentioned earlier that they are all very distinguished and just full of integrity and just incredible knowledge. But you had the opportunity to see if there was a value that you had that resonated with one of the faculty. And my three values that I pretty much live by are my faith, leadership, and resilience. And I resonated with Gus, Dr. Gustafson, and he too, one of his values is faith. And that relationship that we had and the ability to connect on a very, very deep level worked very well for me in my dissertation. And I worked with Gus, and he helped me to identify other individuals who would also bring various skill sets to the table that I needed. I previously mentioned that Dr. Roland McCready from the Institute of Heart Math was one of my, on my committee as well. And then another just really incredible faculty is Dr. Kim Cameron, who also was on my team. So I worked very closely with Gus for us to first identify that we were a pretty solid unit working together, and then working along with him, he helped me to identify other individuals that would be a really great fit for me on my committee.
And, one of the things, the way you connected with Dr. Cameron initially, I assume, was that Dr. Cameron was a teacher in the course one weekend, a visiting scholar. And so, as Jim mentioned earlier, each weekend, a lot of the teaching is done by these visiting scholars who come from exceptional institutions and who are often the people who wrote the book that you're reading, and who are doing this incredible cutting edge research. And so it's, to me, has always been one of the amazing things of the program, that you get to learn from these incredible individuals. You get to have them on your dissertation committee, as Denise just explained, and your mind gets stretched by the very edges of the work in the field as a result of that. Yeah, Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Jim, I wonder, there's a question about the success rate of the program in terms of graduates, and also just how we think of success in the program. Could you speak to that? And we've got just about a minute before we need to transition into closing comments.
Yeah, how we think about success in the program, we think about the graduates of our program making a significant positive and enduring impact on business and society from a values-driven perspective. Fundamentally, that's what we really want to see, and that's what leaders like Denise and Brett and you, Amber, and others from the program are doing, and we feel very fortunate about that. In terms of success rates of graduation, about 70% of our students graduate within the 3-year time frame. which is an exceptionally high percentage in a 3-year time frame. And then another 20% graduate in the 4th year. And then there are a couple in each cohort that take a little longer. But, you know, our target is to make sure that everyone in each cohort eventually graduates. And we're committed to that goal.
Terrific. Thank you. I know there are questions we didn't quite get to. I will keep a record of the chats here and connect with you guys individually if we've missed a question, but I want to make sure we have time here for some closing comments to just give you an overview of where we're headed from here and what the deadlines are. So as you can see on the screen, we are now accepting applications for Cohort 5, which begins in the spring of 2019. The deadline for applications is November of 2018. So you have some time, but I would strongly encourage you, if you plan to apply earlier rather than later. And for 2 reasons. One, it does take a little longer than you might expect to get all of the documentation together. But 2, I think when you apply earlier, it gives us a chance to get to know you better, and it gives you a chance to get to know us better. So do your due diligence, apply early so you have that time to invest in the process. And of course, if you have any questions about it, you can contact me using info@cvdl.org, or just drop me an email, which I'll make sure you guys all have. I also want to make sure, if you've not discovered this page on our website, please visit it. It's cvdl.ben.edu/doctorate. And you can see that dissertations and research link I was mentioning earlier, all sorts of rich content, but in particular, the one that's circled there. You have now attended an online information session, but we will hold an on-campus session on September 14th. And what's remarkable about it is that you'll have an opportunity to sit in on a class one Friday evening and meet with Dr. Bruce Avolio, who's a leading visiting scholar, and meet some of the students and just be able to actually get a feeling for what it's like to be a student in our program. So we want you to check that out and join us if you can. We'd love to have you there. Another way to learn more, if you haven't already noticed, our program booklet has been updated, and you can find it at that web link, /program booklet. It's about 30 pages full of great information. There's a profile of Brett in it if you want to hear a little bit more about him and some of our other students, and lots of frequently asked questions. It's just a great consolidation of everything you might otherwise find on our website as well. You know, we also want to mention to you that, as Jim said earlier, that we're launching a new Masters of Science in Values-Driven Leadership that's an online program, and the first cohort is enrolling now. So this is really focused on people who are preparing for senior leadership roles. Maybe they're new managers or looking to really advance their leadership skills. And we would ask your help. If you know someone who might be interested in an online leadership program that's really built on the framework of our world-class curriculum, we'd love for you to connect us with us. So we put that out there. And finally, just another excuse to get to know us, on May 31st, we'll hold a one-day workshop that's an introduction to appreciative inquiry, which is actually something you learn about in the program. It's a process for organizational development and change and leadership development. And this is a one-day workshop on a Thursday here in Chicago, a great time to get to know Jim, who will be facilitating it, and connect with some of our current students, and also just have your mind expanded by this new process that you will immediately find a chance to put to work. And with that, Jim, I'm going to turn it back over to you for any closing comments.
Great, Amber. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for being a part of this webinar today. I hope that you have found it useful. You know, just to summarize, in this program, we're looking for a dynamic group of senior leaders who want to change the world through a values-driven approach to business, who just love to learn and want to grow and develop as leaders, scholars, and people, and who want to push the frontiers of the field, both in terms of theory and practice, and who want to do that as part of a global learning community with a bunch of other like-minded, smart, fun, values-driven leaders like Denise and Brett and Amber. So we hope that you are that kind of person and that you will apply to the program. And we look forward to meeting you if you do. So thanks to everybody. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Amber, very much for your contributions. and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I think with that, we are adjourned. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.